Hey, what's going on, guys? The Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today is February 7th, 2014, and I know it's been a while. I've been gone, and I've actually moved from Seattle, Washington, back to San Marcos, Texas, and apparently, Time Warner Cable, you are the worst. We had everything planned to get set up. I plan on doing the show on Monday, and no, they decided, even though we prepaid for it and told them to come out, we were going to be here Monday afternoon, if you guys can get here Monday morning, so I can be set up and everything, all good stuff. No, apparently that's not that doesn't work. So we had to wait until Wednesday, and then, I had to get everything else ready, unpacked, all the other good stuff from moving cross country again. That was a whole lot of fun. Anyways, another thing I want to talk about is, this is obviously, I'm in a different area. This is a different space that I'm using. So hopefully there's not too much of an echo around here right now. I'm still getting stuff, set. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be unpacked that I've just been too lazy to get to. So there might be a little echo. Hopefully we can just tone that out for right now. But we're back on schedule, guys. We are back on schedule. I know I've been gone for about a week and a half now. Again, I've been on the road since last Tuesday and got to Texas on Monday. And we also got stopped because of snow in New Mexico, which was a whole lot of fun. Not really. So I'm finally here. So we're back on normal schedule, Mondays and Fridays afternoon. And hopefully we'll get a set time pretty soon and all that other good stuff. But hopefully this is A-okay for right now and all that other good stuff. So let's move on to it. Another thing I didn't get to do was the Super Bowl edition, my picks, my, recap on it and all that other good stuff. I didn't get to do that, which was very disappointing. I thought there was some way I could do it. And I wanted to do it actually in the hotel that I was in. But of course, the nicest hotel that we get to, I was going to do it on Super Bowl Sunday. I was going to do it in the morning. We're in the nicest hotel. They had an indoor pool. Everything was nice. A flat screen TV. All the other hotels we were in, they were just terrible. And this was the only one with the worst internet possible. It would not load anything. It wouldn't even load nothing. It would load nothing. So I couldn't do anything on it, which was very disappointing. But I was able to see the Super Bowl in a very nice TV and all that good stuff. So anyways, I guess we'll just move on to today. So again, we're back on normal schedule and all that good stuff. So I said good stuff a lot. So anyways, Arizona State hired former West Virginia defensive coordinator Keith Patterson. He was the Pittsburgh's defensive coordinator when Todd Graham was the head coach at Pittsburgh, then went on for 2 years at West Virginia. And Arizona State, I mean, why would you hire West Virginia's defensive coordinator when for the past 2 years that he's been there, they've had one of the worst defenses not only in the Big 12, but also in just college football. They were terrible. So I don't know why Arizona State, especially when you're playing against Oregons, the Stanfords, even now Arizona getting better at their offense. Why do you want to go and get someone who barely could stop anybody? So I don't see the really thinking through, other than I guess obviously Todd Graham having that connection, saw that he was unemployed and said, hey, come join my staff. But as a full defensive coordinator calling the plays, I don't see why that made a whole lot of sense. Also, North Carolina State senior quarterback Pete Thomas will transfer and will graduate. He's a senior quarterback. He will graduate this May and still, I guess he's redshirt. I don't exactly know how this works. He's a senior. He's graduating, but he's still going to play college football next year. But this is not uncommon, especially for NC State quarterbacks, because the last person to do this, at least the main star, was Russell Wilson after he graduated from NC State, then transferred over to Wisconsin, led them to the Rose Bowl, lost against Oregon. But we all know the story for Russell Wilson now. Not saying Pete Thomas is the next Russell Wilson, but, there's some connection there. Also, Florida State star quarterback Jameis Winston is set to stay at least 2 more years at Florida State, which, I don't really believe too much. Now, I can see his reasons why. Apparently, Jimbo Fisher came out and said, quote, everyone thinks he'll stay just 1 year and then leave. I think it will be 2, unquote. And then Winston came out and said that's an accurate statement and that he wants to win championships for Florida State, both for football and baseball. He does play both. He was pretty solid last year, had a 3.0 1.0 ERA as a pitcher for them, and is expected to be a closer for Florida State, which will be pretty interesting to see how that goes. But I mean, I guess you could say, I mean, he was a redshirt freshman this past season, which means he's been there for 2 years. So technically this would really be like a sophomore season for him. So he's eligible for the NFL draft after this upcoming 2014 season. And people, some scouts said, hey, if he was eligible to come out this year for this year's draft, he not only would have been a first-round draft pick, he could be the number 1 overall pick to the Houston Texans, as they also need a quarterback. So for him to just say, if he has just even a solid year, doesn't have to put up the same numbers, but if he has a solid year, and especially if he posts bigger and better numbers than he did this past season, you can expect Jameis Winston to be another, no matter what the team is, to be the number 1 pick. And so how do you say, hey, yeah, I want to play baseball too, but this is, a lot of money. This is, the number 1 pick. This is the NFL. This is your future. And how do you say, hey, I just want to stay and play baseball, and just skip it again. So for me, I hope he stays another 2 years. That'd be cool to see Florida State, be really good again. And I know Jimbo Fisher wants that because he's saying, hey, that's possibly 2 more championships right there and 3-peat it, something Alabama didn't do. So he could be looking at that, but I really don't see Jameis Winston staying 2 more years, risking a lot of stuff there. So we'll just have to see how that goes. As college baseball, I'm excited. It starts next week for a lot of teams. I know TCU starts next Friday against Jacksonville State, so I'm a huge, I'll be into that. We'll probably talk about college baseball news, but not a lot of people talk about that, so I might try to go and get in that. But I'm excited for college baseball. Also, Alabama has the number 1 recruiting class for the 3rd straight year. They 3-peated in something, and that was recruiting. They had the number 1 recruiting class according to ESPN and other top scouting websites. And this is one thing, and I'm sure a lot of people have now heard about it now. It's been a day or so. Actually, 2 days. It's Friday. Can't really think. They had 1 recruit, defensive tackle Elijah Shaw, who is from Tucker, Georgia, and who was a pretty solid defensive tackle. Especially if you got a scholarship to Alabama, you're probably pretty good. 6'4", 290 something, maybe 300. Just a big guy, and it seemed like he had a lot of potential. But sadly, he suffered a career-ending neck injury. Again, in a spring practice type thing, and most schools would say, hey, we're sorry this happened to you, but we got to take away that scholarship because we need to give it to someone else, save it for next year, this type of thing. No, Alabama said, hey, we stuck by you. You stuck with us. We're going to, keep that promise. We're still going to allow you to have the scholarship and, receive the, education at Alabama, which is pretty solid school. Not looking at, football. You just look at the, school itself. Anyways, they said, hey, we're going to let you have the scholarship. We'll just switch it over to a medical scholarship, something like that. But still, I think that was nice. Most schools really would have taken it away from him. And a lot of schools do that. It's just not really talked about too much. But, thankfully, Alabama's, still good enough to say, hey, you stuck with us. We'll stick with you and allow you to still be here. And he's going to be a student assistant coach or a trainer with the football team, so he'll still be around. It's not like they're just completely outcasting him and just say, hey, we feel bad for you. You can still get the education, but you can't be here. No, they're still going to allow him to be there with them as a part of the team, which is even better. Also, last news for college football, Oklahoma quarterback Blake Bell, the Belldozer, will not be a quarterback for Oklahoma anymore. He is going to switch positions to a tight end, something Tim Tebow probably should do to get back in the NFL. That's another story. But anyways, he's switching to play the tight end position. This year he started 8 games and passed for 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions after fighting and starting one game, not starting the other game, and eventually lost the job to a freshman quarterback, Trevor Knight from San Antonio, who we all saw what a star now he basically is. That I think people really should talk about for Alabama, or for Oklahoma, as he beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Pretty good. He did an amazing job there. But that's basically it for college football, at least for this week's news. I wasn't going all the way back because there's a lot of things to talk about for the NFL, as it is now the offseason. It is the offseason. Seattle Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and I got out of Seattle, I guess, at the right time, because if you haven't heard, there were over 700,000 fans at a parade, at the victory celebration parade for the Seattle Seahawks. And apparently where I lived around there, because, we still talk to people back there, it was completely locked down the entire day, from early morning to late, and just traffic everywhere. Basically couldn't do anything other than join the parade, to walk over there or something. But it was just a crazy thing, to see that. And my cousin is a huge Seahawk fan. He's been a fan since, I believe, 2007, 2006. So he's not a bandwagon or anything, but he was really excited, and I brought him down. When I moved back, the first thing I wanted to do was give him the magazines and the newspapers, which I think, maybe to some fans it might not mean a whole lot, but to me it would mean a lot if I had a cousin, or I knew someone that was in San Diego that was there, and if somehow, some miracle, the San Diego Chargers were to make the Super Bowl, and the sports section of that actual city, so it's legit, it's from the city, it's not just some random New York Times that you get in like Delaware or something. Anyways, instead of making that bad example, I brought him down the magazines from Seattle Times that said, from the first playoff game when they beat the Saints, the cover of it with the score on it, then when they won the NFC Championship against the 49ers. But I couldn't get him the Super Bowl one because I left last Tuesday. So it was, obviously before the Super Bowl. So that was one thing I wish I could have got him, but I had to get out of there. But yeah, it was real cool to give him that. And I think that's a huge thing. Go and frame it and remember that this is, your team's trip to the Super Bowl and then eventually winning the Super Bowl, which I don't think anybody really could have thought. Anybody thought that the Seahawks would blow out the 49ers, the Broncos. I mean, I guess people that probably didn't really look at the game too much and more of just kind of fans that just say, hey, oh yeah, we're going to just beat them, but they don't really look at it too much. I mean, if you would have told me it was 22-0 at halftime, and just didn't tell me who was up, I would have told you it was Peyton Manning. I know the defense for the Seahawks is, now we know is completely legit, but I would have said that's Peyton Manning. There's no way he's down 0-22 or 22-0, whatever. But apparently, yeah, that's how it was. And I remember when we were at the hotel, my dad went out to go get food, and he literally just got to the hotel about maybe like a few seconds after the safety happened. And I was just thinking to myself, what is going on? The first play is a safety. You knew it was going to be a long game. Now, I'm not saying that I knew it was going to be a blowout, or I just knew this was like, wow, this is going to be a pretty intense game. And I guess it was somewhat intense, but, not in a way of a close game. And I saw a picture after the Super Bowl was over with, and it said, who would have thought the Pro Bowl would have been a lot better game than the Super Bowl was? No, I think the Super Bowl or the Pro Bowl was a really good game because, it came down to the last drive, the last second. And, final score is 22-21. The Super Bowl, which was a very fun game to watch, at least if you're a Seahawks fan or just a fan in general and you just really didn't want to see the Broncos win. It was a really good game to watch, I think, even though it was a blowout. But it was pretty ironic that, who would have thought Pro Bowl would have been a closer game than the Super Bowl was. But anyways, that's enough about the Super Bowl because that is basically old news now, even though it's just this past Sunday, it's old news now. And everybody said what they had to say. Of course, I had technical difficulties where I couldn't say it. But anyways, Vikings released linebacker Aaron Henderson who was arrested twice since November on suspicion of drunk driving. He is no longer with the team. And former Florida and Illinois coach Ron Zook, I can't speak, will join the Packers as an assistant special teams coach. Apparently, a lot of people are making that a big deal. I don't really remember this guy, Ron Zook. He probably was before my time or whatever, but apparently that's a big deal for the Packers as an assistant special teams coach. San Diego Chargers wide receiver Danario Alexander had his second surgery to replace an ACL in his right knee and is unlikely to return with the team, which is kind of upsetting. So this is the reason why. As a Chargers fan, when we have a wide receiver that is over 6'4", and really over 6'3", I'm excited because when we had Vincent Jackson, 6'5" or 6'6", we had Malcolm Floyd, who sadly had a concussion that's multiple concussions that will probably be career-ending for him, which sucks because he's 6'5". And then when we had Alexander, came out of nowhere in 2012 with 35 catches, 658 yards, and 7 touchdowns midway through the season, or midway through the end of the season. And he's 6'5" as well. We're thinking, that's perfect. We like to throw long at that time, and we have guys that are 6'4" and taller going against cornerbacks that are 5'11", maybe 6 foot. The odds are with you. So that was a good thing. But he will not return to the team, which I could see why after having a second surgery to help or repair an ACL on the same leg, and it's not working since the last surgery was a few months ago, I think, or maybe it was in January. It sucks that it's got to be like that with him, but he will be a free agent. Jets are interested in wide receiver Jeremy Maclin and Emmanuel Sanders, as they will both most likely be free agents. I think Maclin stays with the Eagles, and Sanders, I think he wants some money, and I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to give him that, so he has a better chance of being a free agent than I think Maclin will be. Because we really, we didn't get to see what Maclin could have done with that Eagles offense that obviously was pretty good with Nick Foles after the quarterback situation was settled. So you think you give another target to Nick Foles, maybe some plays could have been made here and there. So I don't think the Jets will get Jeremy Maclin. I don't think they'll get Emmanuel Sanders either. But if one of them has a better chance of being a free agent, it's most likely Emmanuel Sanders, who I really like. Sadly, he's from SMU, so I've seen him since college. I didn't like him because he was an SMU Mustang, but now he's in the NFL now. I still kind of don't like him because that SMU connection, but I think he's a really good wide receiver. So if he does become a free agent, I hope the Chargers go after him. That would be really nice to have. Also, Santana Moss is to sign a new deal with the Redskins. No money or years has been confirmed, but he is 35 years old. So Redskins, he's kind of old now. Maybe it's time to move on. Jack Del Rio. This thing has got my head scratching. Signs a 2-year deal with the Broncos to stay as defensive coordinator. Now, obviously, he did a pretty solid job this year, having the 7th best rushing defense in the league, and held Marshawn Lynch to 39 yards, who I really thought, I said in my prediction that he was going to have over 100 yards rushing. I was sticking to that. But he was held to 39 yards, which is ridiculous. But the Broncos defense that was one good thing they were able to do, while the rest they couldn't do anything else. But 43 points to a Seattle Seahawks offense that was really not going to say not well known, but no one really thought they would score less than 30 points in the Super Bowl. Most people predicted less than 30 points to the Seattle Seahawks. They go out and score 43. So what does that say? And I know you could say injuries, you could say all this other stuff, but you had a week and a half to prepare for the Seattle Seahawks offense, which is you knew they were going to run the ball, and you did a good job stopping it. But you couldn't stop any of these wide receivers who are talented. Yes, I'm not going against them, but I still think I'm on the side of that argument of whether they're average receivers to good receivers to elite receivers. I think they're good, but they're barely on that borderline good of receivers for Seattle. I think you put them in majority of the teams, and they're 3 or 4 guys. They're the third, fourth string guys. But for Seattle, they're the first and second string guys. So, I don't know. I don't see why he would sign Jack Del Rio. Most people thought he was going to go get a head coaching job somewhere else. And, I would have not signed him. I'd just been like, 43 points. I know what you did in the season, which is good, and especially with the secondary being kind of sucky. But you gave 43 points to a Seattle Seahawks offense that, was not projected, and really is kind of embarrassing to give up that many points to Seattle. Much credit to them. I don't want any Seahawk fans saying I'm hating on the team or anything like that. I'm just saying that should not have been 43 points. And yeah, anyways, the NFL players, well, first I want to put this, I'm not going to really talk about it in the show because I want to make a discussion video about this on my YouTube channel, The Short Sports Show, that I have multiple discussion videos for just to hear what you guys have to say. And they're only exclusive on YouTube, so go and check that out. And this is what the topic is going to be about, is the NFL players apparently... I guess it's not breaking news or anything because I'm sure we all knew this. But NFL players smoke marijuana to relieve pain. And this has been coming out now since, I guess, the week before the Super Bowl, that the NFL should allow this, even though this is not a legal drug still in the United States, other than some states. But I guess it's still, you need a card and all that other good stuff. So anyways, they're making this like the NFL is supposed to go above the law and say, hey, you know what? If you can go ahead, if you're feeling bad, your legs hurting, go smoke some pot and you're good. I'm against this idea, but I'll talk more about it in that discussion video, which you could go check out. Probably upload it tomorrow because I still got to unpack and do a lot of other stuff around here that I've been lazy about. So anyways, go check that out on YouTube, The Short Sports Show. Make sure to subscribe, like, favorite, all the other good stuff while you're there. And since, this is the NFL offseason, there's still stuff to talk about. There's still, we got free agency in 31 days from now. We have the draft in April, which is forever. And the offseason is just the longest thing in the world. So we have to try to make a transition away from football, which is going to be hard, but we're going to get through it together, guys. And thankfully, the sport that's in between, well, I guess not really in between, but is after football season is Major League Baseball. And I'm pumped. I love baseball. I love my Dodgers. And my Dodgers, I'm feeling pretty good about them. I'm feeling pretty good about my LA Dodgers this year. Should have gone to the World Series this past year, but the Cardinals decided to ruin my dreams, so I'm still kind of sad about that. But anyways, Major League Baseball, pitchers and catchers reported, I believe, yesterday. So actually, it was Wednesday, wasn't it? It was the 5th. I believe it was the 5th. Either way, they reported this week. So you obviously know signs of Major League Baseball season. Spring training is coming together. I'm excited, but we do have some news to talk about, which is the Seattle Mariners signed former Rays closer Fernando Rodney to a 2-year, $14 million deal, which was expected to Mariners to go get him. And I like that they went and got him because Mariners, they're going to have a pretty solid squad out there. The one thing that's really holding them back from actually I think this is could potentially, if everything works out right and, they go by some solid numbers, this Mariners team could be a playoff team. But I think the only reason they won't make the playoffs is because you look at who's in their division. You have the winners of the AL West, which was the Oakland A's, who I think are still going to be really good this year. The Texas Rangers, who are improving and kind of being a little bit younger with their team, what they're doing. But I could see the Rangers dropping off just a smidge. LA Angels making some trades around the league. You could see them getting in the mix again. And also, well, that's it. And then the Mariners, and then the poor Houston Astros, who really should be a AAA team, but, it's okay. So that's, you got 3 teams that could make the playoffs above you, and you got to try to get in that mix. So that could be difficult for the Mariners, but expect them to play some pretty solid ball this season. Kansas City Royals hire former first baseman Mike Sweeney to front office as special assistant to baseball operations, which apparently is a big deal for them. But then again, it's the Royals. Who knows what they're doing? Also, the Diamondbacks signed Mark Trumbo, former LA Angel, to a 1-year, $4.8 million deal to avoid abbreviation, and was acquired in December by a 3-team trade. And I think it's a good thing for the Diamondbacks, even though he played majority of the season at first base. And at first base, you have former Texas State Bobcat Paul Goldschmidt at your first base, who will remain there. And the reason I say Texas State, that's in San Marcos, which I am now at. So making that connection, trying to help Texas State. Really, they're probably bigger than me. But anyways, so they're projected to put him at left field, which could be interesting to see. But he had over 30 home runs last season. And Paul Goldschmidt had 34 home runs, and no one else on the Diamondbacks had more than 14 home runs. So having him, if he can still put up, obviously you want to have him at 30 plus home runs this upcoming season. But if at worst it's 20 or more, in that 20 range, that's still going to help them out, because no one has enough power to get over 14 other than Paul Goldschmidt. So that's good for the Diamondbacks. And then some sad news, which was Curt Schilling was diagnosed with cancer this past week, or actually 2 days ago. Who knows when you're listening to this? So I'm just going to say the first week of February, and which is really sad news, because it wasn't. I believe it was like 2 weeks ago. I was rewatching the ESPN 30 for 30 on the Boston Red Sox, how they came back against the Yankees after being 3 down. Everybody counted them out, and obviously we know Curt Schilling, with the game that he had, helped the Red Sox get to the World Series and eventually win it. It's like it wasn't that long ago, so I'm thinking about Curt Schilling and what he's done, and I've been a fan of him since when I first watched that. And it sucks to have him diagnosed with cancer. That's a really sad thing. But he had a great quote. He said, this was what his dad passed down to him about just life stuff, and just said, quote, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do." I thought it was really good, and I guess he's taking it the best way you possibly can with this. I mean, when you're told you have cancer, there's really not a lot of positives there. So the way he's sounding makes it seem like I don't know. It's just a weird thing, but it just sucks that it had to be Curt Schilling. But yeah, so let's try not to end the show on a depressing note and say, hey, I'm coming back next Monday. So you can listen on Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio and YouTube and probably any other place you can find me. I'm most likely there. Also, follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7 and Facebook page, The Short Sports Show. But we will be back to normal schedules. No more 1 week off. No more, not hearing anything from me anymore. I'm back Mondays, Fridays, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Check it out from there. And yeah, so I believe that's the end of our show today. I really thought it was going to be a whole lot longer because of coming back. I thought I was going to explain a lot more. But it's probably good because, it's just me moving. But, went through LA. That was nice. Los Angeles. First time going through Los Angeles was really nice. I really want to just stop there and just say, hey, you know what? Family, I'm going to stay in LA. Thank you. Goodbye. No, but Los Angeles was really nice. The sad thing was, from Seattle until we got to LA, it was just raining the entire time. So we weren't able to really see the nice areas of Northern California, which kind of made me sad because, I want to see California. I only flew to San Diego one time. That was my first time being in California. And that was really nothing too much because you're in an airport. You can't really do anything. So LA was really nice. Arizona was okay-ish, I guess. New Mexico, we got stuck for a day because out of nowhere, snow decided to come down. And that was my first time seeing snow. So a lot of first times right there in that trip. Moving down. But anyways, that is all for today. I will see you guys next Monday. Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio. God first, God bless. I will see you guys Monday.